Hey, what is going on, guys? My name is Slcmof and I'm back again with another video, and in today's video I'd like to give a little bit of analysis for when Zack Snyder tweeted. It was a 30-second little TV spawn, I suppose is what you could call it, and it was pretty cool. I cannot show it full in length. I'm pretty sure I'll get copyright smacked down by Warner Brothers, so I'll link it in the description below. I'm sure most of you have seen it by now. If not, go check that out, come back, and I'll give my 2 cents on it. So I gotta say, even though this little teaser had no dialogue that was new, it's, the 2 pieces of dialogue that Batman says we've already heard, I thought this was an awesome little teaser, and it gave a lot of insight into a lot of different things, and I hope by the end of this video you've kind of taken away that there's a lot packed into this little 30-second trailer that on face value really doesn't provide that much substance or narrative, but really it kind of does, and there's a lot going on here, and I'm going to try to break that down for you guys. First of all, one of the things that was weird is, like, the way that I saw it, it looked like the Batmobile drove through Superman. Like, I can't really explain it, but, like, the way it was edited, it looked like he either just, like, kicked it just, like, barely, and it went spiraling out of control, which is totally, like, a Superman thing that he would do. But the other way, like, the way it's edited, it kind of makes it look like he just, like, drove through Superman's legs, which is, like, pretty weird, but that's just the way that I saw it. But this poses a lot of interesting questions in terms of the sequential order of the film, because if you see, Batman is in his regular Batman suit. It's just like the regular, bat suit, essentially. Not the, the armored suit. So that leads me to believe that potentially there are 2 fights between Batman and Superman, whereas earlier I thought that there was only going to be 1. But it looks like here, potentially there's either 2 fights or the Doomsday fight is out of order. So, for example, one potential ordering of the movie is that you have this fight first, or not a fight necessarily, their first encounter. It doesn't look like there's much of a fight going on here, but maybe it's just Batman going around in the Batmobile, his first encounter with Superman, and this is kind of their first encounter. So then you could potentially go into the Doomsday fight, because right before the Doomsday fight, when the Trinity meets up, they are actually, Batman's in his regular bat suit. So if you think about it, essentially what we thought before is that in the first act, of course, when he's branding criminals and stuff like that, he's in the original bat suit. In the second act, maybe their second fight, he's using the armored suit. But if you think about it, it doesn't make much sense for Batman to get off the armored suit and put away the armored suit to fight against Doomsday in the final act. And it's obvious that in the very first trailer we got, when he was getting shot at by lasers, that's clearly Doomsday and not Superman, because Superman's rays are way smaller than what they were portrayed to be Doomsday shooting at Batman in the first trailer. But at the time we didn't know it was Doomsday because it was just the first trailer. We hadn't seen Doomsday yet. So this teaser provides a lot of interesting context, because I think that I do have a valid point, and I'd love to hear your thoughts about it, but I don't see why would Batman have, his armored suit in the second fight against Superman, but take it off to fight against Doomsday, who's even a bigger, badder threat. Very weird to me, and, seeing that his suit is most likely equipped with, or laced with kryptonite, it would make sense for him to keep that suit on in the fight against Doomsday, but he's taken it off, essentially. And the way that the trailers have presented it is that the Doomsday fight is at the end, but one of the things that I've been theorizing that is very interesting is that Doomsday fight is not actually at the very end of the movie, but rather at a middle point in the movie, potentially, and therefore the actual final fight between Batman and Superman occurs at the end of the film, and maybe a disagreement in terms of the way that they go about fighting Doomsday creates that conflict, that reinvigorates that conflict that we thought was resolved at the end of the first act, but is actually reignited at the end. So, in fact, the end of the movie does end with the fight with Batman v Superman, which I think is an incredibly interesting theory, although I would not put money on it. One of the things that I took away from the trailer is how disinterested Superman is. He almost looks as Batman as like a fly swarming around his head. He's just like, get away from me. You annoy me. You're a nuisance. That's all you are. You're not a threat to me, and that's obvious by the way the Batmobile's coming at him. He didn't even move, and when he crashed, he just like, do you bleed? If not, you will. He just flies away. He doesn't care. He's bored. Okay, he doesn't care, and that's what's really interesting to me, and I think that's something they'll explore in the film, is that Batman's fear that, Superman, he is kind of maybe too self-aware of his power, and he kind of realizes that he could just turn Batman into crush him right there on the spot if he wanted to. Of course, he would never do that, but I loved how they demonstrated that, and even more so, I just loved how Batman was portrayed. Bruce Wayne, he's so unafraid to go up against him. There's no one, of course, to help him, and if Superman wanted to take him out, he would, but Batman's so smart, he's so intelligent. At this point, he realizes the situation. At this point, he's most likely fully aware that Superman would not kill him, so he's using that against him. He's using these kind of he's instigating him by these comments of like, do you bleed? If not you, I'm Superman's just like, oh yeah, okay, whatever. He's like, yeah, you'll make me bleed, okay, Batman. But what's interesting is that I think that this trailer reaffirms my theory that Batman will actually defeat Superman in the movie, in the fight. Of course, no one's gonna die, so when I say defeat, they're going to, a minor victory. Well, it's going to be bigger than we think, but minor in the sense that, Superman's not going to die or anything like that, but he may, receive some kryptonite exposure, non-lethal, of course, and that could be a certain outcome. But I think that the way the trailers have presented Batman is kind of getting his ass whooped, Superman, stay down, if I wanted it, you'd be dead already. And then this, it just looks like Batman, he's driving around these little man-made machines called Batmobile. Superman's just like, what the hell is this? I mean, is this guy serious? But that's one of the things that I think they'll explore in the film is, and try to explain to the casual viewers, that Batman in this universe and somewhat faithful to the comics is much stronger than you've ever seen him. He's, he can compete with Superman under the correct circumstances using his intellect, and he's far more intellectually superior than Superman, at least in most of the time. Of course, there are exceptions, but generally he's very analytical of situations, and I think they'll explore that in the movie, that, Batman can beat Superman in this movie, and I think that's kind of crucial to the survival of the movie, because initially, a casual viewer will maybe think, Batman has no chance. But, on a deeper level, and I think what Zack Snyder's trying to show is that this is God versus God, and contrary to Lex Luthor, is that, Lex Luthor, when he's saying God versus man, is somewhat underestimating Batman's power, because his intellect and in other areas kind of compensates for his lack of physical strength. So very interesting. Batman, very confident. I think he's fully in control of the situation, judging by the way that he's approaching this God that is Superman. Superman, clearly, he's disinterested. He doesn't view him as a threat, at least in their first encounter. Very interesting. Very, very interesting. I love this little teaser. I would not mind, personally, never seeing a second of footage until March 25th, 2016. I don't think that will happen. I really hope that the trailer coming out on the Super Bowl, or on January 21st, I believe it is, with the Legends of Tomorrow, is very, rehashing the trailers that we've seen, maybe a tiny new bits of footage or dialogue between Batman and Alfred, a new soundtrack from Hans Zimmer, and then boom, that's it. That's the end of the story right there. I would love that. So I want to know your thoughts on this trailer in the comment section below. Did you love it? I personally did. I thought it was an awesome little teaser. Again, I would not mind not seeing anything else from the movie. So Zack Snyder, if you're watching this, we're good. We're convinced. We're coming to see your movie on March 25th, pal. No need to show us anymore. Hope you guys have enjoyed. My name's Slcmof, and we'll see you in the next one.